Hey guys, it's Jordan with Team J's Classroom Fun. Welcome back to my YouTube page. Today I'm continuing my series on literacy stations. If you missed the first video, the last one was an introduction. Feel free to go check it out. Before I move on, make sure you do like this video, subscribe to my page, and click that bell so you do not miss out on any future videos, especially ones in this series. So this series that I'm working on is all about literacy stations. And like I said, the first video that I did talks all about like the benefits and why I use them. I have used literacy stations with first grade, second grade, and third grade. I'm sure you could also use them with kindergarten and probably even continue up, just obviously differentiate the activities. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So today's focus is all about how to set up the stations in your classroom and kind of how I use them in my room. Then the next video will be talking about the management of literacy stations. And then after that, I'm going to go into some station ideas. Now, these station ideas, you'll see all of them listed below. Those will be separate videos. And what this will do is this will actually give you ideas that you can literally walk away with and have your kids do in stations. So this is meant to be stuff that you can use. You can tweak to what you need for your class and your grade level, but hopefully it'll be helpful for you to have that. So before we get started here, how I use stations in my classroom. Now, this obviously depends on a number of things. This has changed over the years depending on what grade I teach, also what like our schedule is like, because obviously every school and every grade level, the schedule is a little bit different. But this is kind of how they've been working so far for me, at least this last few years. So literacy stations are typically happening on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesdays we have half days, so it's a little tight to try to get it in, but sometimes I do. And then this actually happens during our 30-minute reading intervention block. So this could happen maybe at the end of your reading block. It could happen at the end of your word study block. It could happen as part of your intervention. Whenever you're planning on doing small groups, this is when I do literacy stations, because the kids that are not meeting with me for small group, they will be working on their literacy station. So that's kind of how I do it. Like I said, typically do about 30 minutes. I'm going to be honest, it's probably more like 25 once we get into it, but I try to shoot for 30. Students attend one station for 30 minutes and they rotate stations each day. Let's talk about that a little bit. So before, a long time ago, when I used to have 10 stations, and yes, I really did, you'll see a picture of that maybe in a little bit. They actually would go to 2 stations a day. So they'd have like 15 or 20 minutes at one station and then switch to the next. You definitely could do that. I found that sometimes the cleanup and move to the next, it got a little chaotic. So it's a lot easier for them to stay at one, but obviously it depends on your group and your grade level. Like I said, when I say they attend for 30 minutes, honestly, it probably doesn't end up being a full 30 just because, it takes time to get them in the group. And then we also have to have time to clean up and, things like that. But I aim for 30 minutes. The other thing too is they're rotating stations each day. It's important that they're not at the exact same thing every day because then they will get bored. And if they get bored, then sometimes you'll have some behavior problems creep up and they're not engaged and they're not actually working, which defeats the purpose. So how I use them in my classroom as well. During stations, I'm pulling intervention groups. Oftentimes, my intervention groups are based on phonics skills. So I will be using Foundations, which is the phonics program that we have. They're working on small groups, and their small groups are based on a lot of different things. We use FastBridge as one of our assessments. So I use FastBridge data. I'm also using data from Foundations, which again is the phonics program we use here, but you could use any program that you use. I have a quick phonics screener that I use. Sometimes I use the Scholastic running records, classroom data, and observation. I use all these things to group kids. So sometimes I'm pulling groups based on phonics needs. Sometimes I'm pulling groups based on fluency. Maybe I'm pulling a group that's working on comprehension and vocabulary. So based on how they do on the assessments, that's how I decide how to group kids and how to decide what I need to work with, but also how they're working on their stations. Some skills in stations are being pre-taught, and then also some are going to be retaught as well. Okay, classroom setup. So a lot of this too depends on what your classroom situation is like. I have done this a few different ways depending on how my class looks or how my room looks. Back in the day, when I had a ton of tables and I taught first grade, I actually had like specific places in the classroom for each station. Like this table, and you'll see a picture in a minute, was the writing station. This picture was the ABC, or not this picture, this table was the ABC station. Over here is where the reading station met. Over here, and that way there was like a set place. Now, obviously, are you always going to have space and room and tables for that? No. And currently, that's not how I choose to do it, but that is one way you could do it. Stations can also be mobile. So I've also done it where like I have stations in a bin, like here's the Fluency bin. And when you're at the Fluency station, you take that bin to a desk area, to a table, or to the floor, and you work on it there. And also, too, I have like a pocket chart or some kind of board with the station placement for the day. So that's also something that I have. Okay, so this is an example, and this is from a really long time ago, which is why the picture is not the best quality. So I apologize. I also had a Phoenix Suns classroom, as you can potentially tell. So this is back when I taught first grade, and this was the writing station. So this legit was the writing station. So when kids went to the station, they went to this table, they worked at this table, they cleaned up this table, and then they moved on to their next station. I had all the materials there. I had papers in those little cabinet, or not cabinets, the drawers you see. I had markers and supplies in that little supply bin. And then you can see the I can list up on the wall as well. And I had some other examples for them to look at too. So this was when I had tables. Now, sometimes you might have where a few of your stations, maybe you have a table or two that you can use, and the rest might be mobile. That's fine too. You can always do a mix. Here was another classroom I had. So this one, again, the writing station is actually at a set spot. You can see this child has task cards here. They have the papers here, and then they also have bins with the folders. The next thing is a bin. This is my geometry bin, which is not literacy. I'm very well aware of that. I just couldn't find a picture. So what I've often done too is say I have like a fluency bin, and in there I have like fluency cards and the fluency little phone things and things like that. There would actually be a label that says fluency, obviously not geometry. And then kids would literally take this bin where they're going to work on their station, use the materials in there, put everything back, and then the bin goes in a set place. So you could use that as well. Okay, that's what I have for you today. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them down in the comments, or you can find me on Instagram over at Team J's Classroom Fun. Next time, I'll be talking a lot about management of literacy stations, how to group kids, how to do the management board, all that good stuff. So make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Click that bell so you do not miss these future videos. Talk to you later.